We have seen over the years a lot of tremendous female players. Why have we not seen mainstream household female professional in CoD? How do we cultivate the 200 female players you have there into the challengers ecosystem?
One of our PRs, she was like, I want to submit you to Forbes 30 under 30. Could you send me a biography about yourself? That first Black Ops event that I casted, I had never casted once before in my life, and I didn't even know it was a job.
Huge shout out again, PrizePicks, for sponsoring this latest episode with Allycxt. Make sure you do use referral code Breaking Point. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 on PrizePicks. Again, use the referral code Breaking Point. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. Easy money. Guys, February 16th, when Major 2 qualifiers start again, we have the Miami Heretics versus the Major 1 champions, Toronto Ultra. We have the Carolina Royal Ravens versus the New York Subliners, Boston Breach versus the Ravens, and then FaZe versus Heretics. Make sure you guys get your picks in. Again, referral code Breaking Point. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. You have 2 weeks to get yourself prepared for these prize picks. A lot of money on the line. Make sure you do sign up. Make sure you use the referral code Breaking Point. February 16th. We kick it back up with the CDL. Right. Ali.
Yes.
My first question to you. We have seen over the years a lot of tremendous female players.
Yes.
Dream Crazies, your Calcerunis, your Amelias, your Sellys, your Tigers. Why have we not seen a mainstream household female professional in CoD?
In CoD, I love this question because a lot of the time people will just be like, well, if there's a girl as good as WxC, she would just be brought up into the league. She would just be on a challengers team. And I don't think many people understand that that's not possible. And it's not because there isn't a girl with the talent of WxC, but WxC didn't just, enter the competitive scene. It was instantaneously on a top challenger team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't just spawn in. Suddenly they were like, oh my God, this kid's going to be on Optic Texas. He's so good.
Yeah.
He had to actually play against other players and cultivate that talent and scrim and prove himself to top players.
Yep.
And girls don't get that opportunity. A guy and a girl will enter the competitive community and one of them will be discriminated for their gender and one of them won't. A guy will never be told, we can't team with you because you're a dude.
Yep.
We're not going to scrim you because you're a dude. But a girl will get that. And, I've gotten that. I've gotten, we can't play against you because you're a girl, or we can't team with you because you're a girl, or I can't take this serious because you're a girl. And so even if the talent lays there, there's no proper environment for it to be cultivated and actually turned into something.
Yeah, I understand. So we can both agree there's a lack of awareness for what the female community goes through, especially in CoD esports. I think you see it in different esports where females are now getting a fair opportunity, or at least they're pushing the boundaries of what they had before.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, as someone who is very prominent in the CoD scene, and we'll discuss that later, for the viewers, what steps would you implement today to provide as much exposure and the ability for females to push the boundaries in CoD esports?
Well, so I think we already kind of did it really great last year when the WxC was first founded, the Women X Call of Duty, is my peers allowed us to put WxC on the mainstream and kind of showcase them to the audience and try to make it a norm of like, hey, girls can play at a high level as well and they can be cultivated at a high level. So I already think some of the first steps have been made, as well as just kind of making it more normality of women being in, challengers teams or being in these tournaments. And even in this past off season, I think that was done really well. There was a lot of co-ed tournaments that, the requirement of having the girl on the team. And even though it might sound silly of being like, oh, well, we require you to have a female content creator, we require you to have a female player, it's what has to happen because there is that segregation, because there's that separation of, girls being able to play at the competitive level, is we have to reinforce that integration because there was a forced disintegration.
Yeah, I understand. But before we tackle on to what WxC is, you'll often find arguments on Twitter. Oh, well, females have slower reaction times, more emotional. You'll hear that commonly throughout Twitter. What is your opinion on that as someone who's actually played and competed yourself?
I think that stuff is so silly. I by no means think that I'm the best, competitive female player. I haven't been able to put as much time in the game since like Black Ops 4, which is the first game I tried to compete in.
Right.
And not once did I ever feel like I had a slower reaction time than the people I was playing against, or like felt like, if anything, I communicated better and more effectively than like any of my teammates. And I've been told that by pro players, like, I've had the opportunity to, queue up with them in ranked and just play casually for every once in a while. And I've had them tell me like, dang, you got better comms than my teammates. Like, so if anything, maybe the girls have the advantage in that sense of our communication's really good. But I have never once, I don't think there's a study on it. I don't think that's true in any sense of the form. Maybe, we even have Clay out there. Just, it's an age thing too.
Yes.
Oh, when you get older, your reaction time slows down. Last time I checked, Clayster's dropping 30 plus on the map. I don't think that's anything to do with it.
I agree. I think the age thing is also fascinating. I think a lot of people say once you hit a certain age, your reactions instantly slow down to a snail's pace. But really, it's a very micro adjustment or very micro a micro decrease.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you. Now, let's talk about the tournament that you started last year. Now, I want you to describe to the viewers what it is, what's the purpose of it, and how they can tune in.
Yeah, of course. So it's the WxC, it's the WxC Call of Duty, if you type the whole thing out.
Yep.
And it was kind of just a pipe dream that I had. I want to say it was back in April of last year, where I even just tweeted out and was like, hey, I have this idea, and I want peers from the community to listen in and let me know what they think. So I held like almost like an open meeting on Zoom and just kind of presented my idea. And I feel like I blinked, and a month later we were having the first season. The WxC is basically, it's just an all girls tournament. We did an open bracket play, so we did a play-in, so girls could make their own teams, and just it was an open bracket sign up.
Yep.
I think we had 40 or something teams.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot. The second set of play-ins was insane. But it was the top. So we only did 8 teams, and the reason it was such a small amount is because obviously it's quality control, and just to make sure that it was our first inception, make sure we do everything correctly. So it was a play-in. Top 8 teams got a spot in a quote unquote. I don't know what I would call that, but quote unquote tournament, whatever, roundabout play where everybody plays each other for seeding for the final tournament at the end. It happens over the course of like 3 to 4 weeks, and we provided production, we provided team names, we provided team logos. So in the order that the girls placed in the play-in, we gave them the option to pick. We showed them all the logos and was like, pick which one you want, and that's how we kind of like dispersed that among them.
Yeah. For example, Tsunami, Ruby, Emerald.
Yeah, all of them.
Perfect.
And then, the purpose was just, I never expected anybody to join the WxC and win it and then be like brought up to a CDL team. Like nothing like that. We got a lot of comments on, oh, what, do you expect them to just join a challengers team from this? Like, no, absolutely not. It was more of just creating the safe space to cultivate, again, like the talent we were touching on earlier.
This goes back to my question.
Yeah.
Because you've got 40 teams. That is phenomenal. Right?
So many. Well, I think, so we broke, 50 in the second set of play-ins.
Wow.
There is a lot of girls in the competitive scene, but again, it is quality control because, again, it's talent that's there that hasn't been cultivated properly yet, right?
But you see, that's 200 female players.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, $1 million question, is how do we cultivate the 200 female players you have there into challengers, into the challengers ecosystem? How would you encourage that? So you're speaking to me as the New York Subliners representative. How would you then convince me or help nudge me into picking up a female team or into providing a foundation a platform for these females to play in challenges?
Well, for one thing, it wouldn't be like an all-females challengers team. That's just not how that integration's ever going to work. Unfortunately, it is the reality of, I don't think an all-female team right now would be able to compete at the highest level.
Yeah.
But I think there are individual players that are capable of competing at the highest level. So to that point, I would then bear the question of, well, this girl has been playing in challengers, and she has placed well, but she's been having to bounce from team to team because of the misogyny or because of the separation, the segregation. But, she's played in Warzone tournaments, she's played in CoD Search and Destroy tournaments, and she's done well. She's played well against these top tier players. There's no reason to not want to try and cultivate that or try to bring that into our ecosystem.
So then is it a question of time? So let's use your example when you mentioned with the Warzone SD. Selly.
Yes.
Say if Call of Duty progresses over the years, do you think naturally more females would then play in challenges because of, say, you've got the WxC? And then do you think, because this is a behavioral issue, isn't it? Misogyny in the community.
Yeah.
Do you think that is an issue that's going to fade away with time, or is there things that we can do today to help like reduce that?
Both. It would have to be time and forced integration. So how we were talking about earlier is the like off-season tournaments that would be held, or the preseason tournaments right when the game drops before we have proper CDL rule sets. It's like 2 content creators to a team with a pro player and so. All of those little third-party tournaments that we hold, like making sure to force that space of integration with women to give them the platform to then convince the community that they can hang. Giving them the opportunities to continuously not only get better, but to also prove themselves to the community and to other players that they are better than those they are being paired and held against. Yeah.
So do you see the end goal for the WxC as being similar to the Valorant? I believe it's the Game Changers?
Yes.
Is it Game Changers? Yeah.
So mine and my whole production team's goal with the WxC was we want to get it to a point where the prize pool is big enough that the girls can make a living off of playing Call of Duty.
Right.
If it's being a point where they can make salary and dedicate more time to this than not, because they're in the same situation all the other Challenger players are in, on the more mid-tier levels. They have jobs, they have school, whatever that they have to go through. So we have to get it to a point where they can, go to their parents or go to whoever and be like, look, I'm making good money off of this. Like, I want to be able to dedicate more time, again, to cultivate this talent that maybe otherwise wouldn't have had the space to.
Yeah. And just to be clear to your viewers, and pardon me if I'm incorrect, if I'm putting words in your mouth, but essentially what the WxC is we're creating the foundation for the next generation of females.
Yes.
Build the confidence, the skill set, to then eventually get into the challenger scene, to work with, we call it co-ed, I believe.
Yes.
Mixed teams. And then that way we can slowly funnel in a new generation of females.
Yes, that's completely correct.
Perfect. Are you Activision funded?
So
how does that work?
No. So last year it was going to be so my first season was self-funded at first. It was going to be 5,000 prize pool, and then the production I was going to fund myself. It was slight volunteer based, but also like we're paying you guys whatever we get, like whatever like funding I can get on the back end of things like Twitch subs or whatever. Every time I went, so the first season was streamed on my personal Twitch channel, and it was every time that we went live for the WxC, any subs that I got during that time went to my production and went to the people working in the back end.
Right. So you set this all from the ground up yourself?
Yes.
Just to be clear?
Yes.
Wow.
And then during that time, after we had started, I think it was the first season. It was one of the seasons, Boston Breach doubled our prize pool. I want to say it was the first one. So
Shout out to the Breach.
Shout out to the Breach. Boston Breach reached out and they gave us $5,000 add to the prize pool. I, love them. Thank God. It was incredible. And then another one of the seasons, Activision then gave us $10,000 to put towards, we did half towards prize pool and half towards production on the back end. So our first 2 seasons, at first self-funded, and then Activision gave us money, and Boston Breach during one of the seasons gave us money as well. But they were in separate seasons. I'm sorry, my memory's blanking me on which ones.
You're fine.
But and then as we move forward to this season, currently it's looking like self-funded again, which I have no problem with. My biggest thing has just been trying to get the girls to understand that this is going to be a good thing for the women's scene, and that I really wish that they would take it a little bit more seriously and dedicate themselves to it a little bit more seriously.
So what do you mean by that? Mind me asking.
So last year when I first, came up with the idea and brought it forward to the girls scene, there was just a lot of speculation. I myself wasn't super integrated into the girls scene. I had like my one friend that, she kind of played with the girls, but I personally didn't. I never really got to be integrated into the women's scene, so I was seen as like a foreign object to them, I guess. And with that, a lot of them didn't feel comfortable, I feel like, maybe, or safe with me. And so it's very much like, this is crazy, this is ruining other stuff that we have or whatever, because there have been other like girl woman leagues inceptions beforehand, like I believe the FPL, but they've been inactive for a while, and the FPC. And the reason I wasn't really interested in working with them was obviously I had my own ideas, my own visions, but also they hadn't gone through event approval through Activision. And as an Activision employee, like I just can't be associated with something that is run third party that doesn't have my works.
Because you could get in trouble.
Because that could get me in trouble.
Yes.
And, again, because it was our originally self-funded project, and in some areas still is, because like logos and stuff, I paid out of pocket. Graphics, I paid out of pocket. My production paid out of pocket. So for me, it's like I'm already sticking my neck out because it's also my reputation, right? Because everybody knew I was doing this. You know, my work, I had to get their permission to do it. I had to get event approval. On Twitter, I had to promote it. I had to do it on my own Twitch channel. So anything that goes wrong or could have messed up or whatever, like that all comes on me. It's all my responsibility.
Yes.
And, I just feel like some of the girls didn't understand that or have a grasp on how much I was putting my neck out on the line.
Was it a
for them.
sensible entitlement?
I don't know so much of entitlement, maybe a little bit. It was more of just like I was asking them, hey guys, like, your social medias, please be careful about what you tweet and stuff. I'm going to be bringing this to CDL teams. Like, I really see this and I envision this on a really high professional level. And to them, they take that as like, oh, you're controlling and you're going to blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not it. Like, I don't care what you do with your lives. I'm just trying to make this as successful as possible for you, not for me. Because to them, they think I'm gaining something. And I'm like, I gain nothing. If anything, I'm losing a lot. Like, I'm losing money. I'm losing possibly reputation. Like, I'm losing credit, to maybe connections I have in the behind the scenes. Because if I bring this to them and for some reason something happens, again, that's on me. They put their trust in me. They're not going to look at you and be like, oh, well, that's that girl's fault. No, it's my fault because I didn't properly communicate to you how you needed to behave or hold you accountable or responsible, whatever.
I think it's fantastic you brought that up. I think that shows in depth everything that you have done for this league. And I think it comes from a place of ignorance. I think you don't know what you don't know. So these girls don't truly know what you're bringing to the table and how much sacrifices you have to make and all the things that you're putting in. So I want to go into this a bit deeper. What is your actual role on this league? What do you do? For the viewers here.
Yeah. So the first season, I was pretty hands off. I was more of just like the face of, what was happening. So I would go on and I would host. So I would be like, hey guys, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yada, yada, yada. And then I had a dedicated competitive comp ops leader. His name was Don. He handled everything as far as like end game rules, following GAs, whatever. And then I had my producer, Jalen, who he ran the whole production team. And we had a TD, again, ran everything back in. So for me, I just showed up, I would host, and then I was the person, writing the emails and writing the checks. So I don't know what that would make me, a commissioner or whatever, but I was just the one handling like businessy sides of things. And then the second season, I actually ended up playing. So I went through the same process as everybody else. I went in the play-in with some girls and went through the motions or whatever. And by this time, we had moved to a separate Twitch. We got WxC its own Twitch channel, and I was totally hands off at that point. I wasn't hosting or anything. Our casters were opening the show. My production were in their own Discord call. Obviously, I was in game playing, and Dawn, again, was still running all comp ops. So second season, I want to say I was almost completely hands off, other than I would hold meetings with the girls. So, before the season started and we got our teams in lock, I got all the girls in a Discord call and we would go through like, okay, here's some rules, some player conduct rules, blah, blah, blah. If you need to go to somebody about a question about end game, you go to Don. If you have a question about broadcast or anything else, you go to Jalen. Whatever, if you have any internal issues between each other, you go to player support. We had a dedicated player support team to try and make everything handle internally instead of externally, because everybody has Twitter fingers and enjoys Twitter fingers. And I know it's a stigma between the girl scene of having like all this drama, and realistically, like if we're being super real, the boys challengers side, it's not segregation. There's not boys challengers, girls challengers, but like the general COD community has Twitter fingers and has Twitter drama. It's just so centered that when something wrong happens in the girl scene, in the girls community, it becomes like, oh, they're all about drama. That's all they do. It's all they. So like I was just like trying to negate that as much as possible. Like I understand everybody does it, but for us, it's just this much more important that we be more careful if we want to try and make this easier for everybody.
But you mentioned obviously there's a lot on the line, right? So you have to, everyone has Twitter fingers. How do you show accountability to the people under your league? Because whatever they tweet is a reflection of you, is a reflection of your sponsors. Where's the accountability? How do you administer accountability? It's a lot easier for me as the head coach in New York to say, guys, you tweeted that, that's a fine. How do you do that for girls who may not be contractually obliged?
So that was incredibly difficult. And I will say, thank the Lord that for the most part, we really didn't have anything super bad happen with Twitter fingers. There was a couple times where it was like the girls, something would happen, and instead of coming to us about it, they would go to Twitter, and I'd have to like DM them privately and be like, hey, like we want to clear this up. we don't think this happened the way that maybe you're perceiving it, or please, take down that tweet so that we can actually handle this internally. I want to say that only happened once or twice.
Yeah.
So we did get really lucky. I'm sure there was other times that we didn't really know about that just didn't blow up into big situations.
Yeah.
But we tried to handle it internally as much as possible. But again, because I can't find them, and because for some reason they already had this, there was already stigma that I was banning people, which we only have one person that was banned. It was not allowed to play. But they were always like, "Oh, we're so scared to tweet and do all this stuff, and she's so controlling." And I'm like,
as they should be. I'm scared to bloody tweet. If I tweet something wrong, I'm getting a fine straight on my head, as they should. So let's talk about a topic which is hotly contested on Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter fingers. Transgender.
Yes.
Your league promotes equality.
Yes.
Your league promotes diversity. Right?
Yes.
Just tell the viewers about transgender, about them in your league.
So again, equality and inclusivity specifically for women, is really the biggest thing for the WxC. We allow transgenders to play as long as they identify as a woman. If you identify as a woman, you can play. That's bottom line. There was a couple times where we were asked, about, oh, what if we're non-binary and we don't identify as either or, and that was a really tough situation. Unfortunately, we had to just be like, no, just because in our sense of ignorance, like I wouldn't know how to handle that. I don't know how the girls would feel about it. So you identify as a woman, cool, you can play in the WxC. If you do not, unfortunately, that answer is no.
Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about your journey.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the other female competitors in the scene, but let's talk about one of the shining stars of the female community. What do you do? Let's have a bit of a summary to the viewers who may not know, which they should. They all would.
If you're this far, I feel like you have a little bit of a grasp.
So what do you do? Let's discuss that.
For the past 2 years, I have been an analyst for the Call of Duty League. It's been 2 or 3 years. I think I'm on
3 years.
3. Wow.
Time has flown by, hasn't it?
That is crazy. I'm on my 3rd year, my 3rd season of being an analyst for the Call of Duty League. And if you don't know what that is, if you watch NFL and the dudes at the desk are talking about the teams, I do that, but for professional video game players.
Perfect. So I want to touch on something that might be a very sensitive topic.
Go ahead.
I remember one of your first casts on Black Ops 4.
Oh, God.
Right?
I'm already seeing the clip in my brain.
Well, we won't talk about the particular clip.
Okay.
But what I want to use you as a learning for a lot of people who may have been in your position, who you are not as polished as you are now.
Yeah.
By no means were you bad or anything like that, but you did receive a lot of, I would say, feedback.
Feedback is
a lot of feedback,
a very kind word to use
especially amplified because you are a female, you're in the shining spotlight, you have 100,000 people watching you. What advice would you give to viewers who may be in your position, who aren't where they want to be and they're dealing with a lot of feedback? Mentally, how did you get yourself out of that? What was your process from that moment to get to where you are now?
It was a lot of just practicing. I think my situation requires a lot of context just because I had never done it before that event. That first Black Ops event that I casted, I had never casted once before in my life, and I didn't even know it was a job. So I think context in that situation sort of matters. But as far as like how I handled it moving forward, it was just a lot of repetition. I know I knew the game. I knew the game in and out very well. I put unholy amounts of hours about it. It was just more so my conversation skills, my communication skills, and learning how to talk on camera and how to get what my brain is thinking across in an adequate amount of time without certified yapping somebody's head off.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of repetition, a lot of listening to my peers. I listened to Miles a lot, even though I was more of a color caster and he's more play-by-play. At least as far as like broadcasting voice goes, I had to discover my broadcasting voice because a lot of the COD guys haven't heard a woman's female voice before, and they were like, "It's so squeaky and high." And I'm like, I was born with that, but I'll work on it. So I had to develop like a broadcast voice. And then as far as like the mental fortitude of feedback, as you worded it, it was, I don't go on Reddit. I wanted to say I haven't gone on it in years, but sometimes it gets you and you go and you look. But majority of the time I don't open it. There's a massive, large group of NPCs. Twitter, same thing. I don't enjoy social media the way I used to because of it.
I agree.
I don't go on it unless it's just to, get a tweet out for some interactions that I can send to my agency, or it's, maybe to send a DM or two, but I just don't. I'm notorious for blocking. That's my reputation now, but you know what? I'm totally cool with that. I'm at the point where like protecting my future peace is just so much more important to me than anybody else, because nobody that I know in my like circle of people that I know are like that. Go on the internet and spew hate or like say something super out of pocket. Like nobody that I know or care about or know is a decent person does that. So anybody who does that, I'm like block. Like you're not somebody I'm ever going to interact with for the rest of my life.
So you mentioned in Black Ops 4, you didn't really have too much experience casting. You've made the jump from challengers and amateurs into the pro scene.
Yes.
And not only did you make the jump, you're the face of the league.
Okay,
basically, she's essentially the face of the league.
I'm getting imposter syndrome right now. No way. That is.
We'll move your imposter syndrome to the side for one moment. Okay?
I'll try. I'll fake it till I make it. Yeah.
Hey, that's another one. That's another one we learned. How did you get that call up to the CDL?
It's almost frustrating because I don't think people realize like the absolute like roller coaster of a career path I've had when it comes to Call of Duty. So I've played Call of Duty my whole life since I was, a kid. My dad was a gamer. I'd sit in his lap. He'd play Modern Warfare 2. I'd watch him shoot honest civilians in Terminal. The usual childhood grow up. You remember that? You remember that campaign? That campaign story? A Modern Warfare 2, and you're on Terminal, and you have to shoot the civilians.
No.
How do you guys not remember this?
God.
I can't believe you don't remember this. Yeah, you had to shoot the civilians.
I remember.
You didn't have a choice.
I do remember. Yes, I'm just traumatized. Makarov was.
I have a meme where they replaced the civilians with the Animal Crossing character.
I think that's even worse. Oh my god!
It's in my phone. I'll have to send it to you later.
I get a zebra. Zebra's out. I'm getting a shovel and I'm smacking him.
So that was like my origin story. That's my villain origin story. Terminal shooting civilians on Terminal as a 9-year-old. But so I'd always played COD. But again, I moved around a lot as a kid. So there was a period, like my first 2 years in high school, we lived in the middle of literally nowhere. Like internet was a foreign concept, and the PS4 could barely run Destiny campaign. So there wasn't much gaming for me in that time period. I had to kind of put a hold on COD. But that was also probably the prime period I would have learned about competitive COD and the streamer world.
Yeah.
And my dad and my brother, apparently, as I got this job, they were like, oh yeah, I used to watch Scup all the time as a kid. And I'm like, why didn't you a-holes tell me about this? Anyway, my junior and senior year of high school, there was a guy in my class that for some reason I was really intrigued by. He could solve a Rubik's Cube really fast. And for some reason I thought that was really cool. And I was like, I want to be this person's friend. He was a part of the Destiny community. And so that's what kind of opened me into the gaming world. He made me make a Twitter, and he was like, this is my Destiny group of friends. We make Destiny montages on YouTube and stuff. And there's gaming cults called Dare and Soar and North. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I like gaming. And they're like, you're a girl. You should start streaming. And I'm like, okay, sure. I go to my local GameStop. I buy a PlayStation camera, I plug it in, I'm sitting on my beanbag chair, and I'm suddenly loading into Call of Duty or Destiny 2 on my giant TV, streaming to, a total of maybe 4 people that are in the same group chat as me. And so I started streaming, and then I went to my first ever COD event, 2018 Anaheim, World War II.
Yeah, that was my best event. Just want to put it out there.
Was in love with competitive COD. Everybody else, we were all underage, so we were holding house parties and stuff and drinking illegally. I mean, what? And
cut that out.
and me, I was glued to the screen watching competitive COD, watching World War II. I remember it was a team called like Conquest or something. I'd come up from the open bracket and was going against Optic.
Kismet team.
We were all going crazy. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I looked up what the next game was that was going to be dropped, Black Ops 4.
Yep.
And I went to World War II Champs that year, which was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yep.
And they had the little stations with Black Ops 4 where you could play the game early. And I just sat there playing Black Ops 4 while all the matches were going on.
I remember. You were in my lobby.
Really?
Yes, you were.
Wait, seriously?
I remember,
That's insane. So yeah, I was just sitting there playing Black Ops 4, so excited for the game to drop. And I decided right then and there I wanted to compete. I wanted to be a competitor. So I started playing Black Ops 4. Well, I was playing Black Ops 3 wagers up until Black Ops 4 dropped. And then started grinding the game, playing 10s lobbies, just trying to, get out there. I went to locals. My first local, which is so funny to think about, I played with a pickup team, never played with them before. It was in Dallas, Texas. And Sib was back when he was siblings and he was he was underage. I think they placed like top 2 or something. I placed top 8 out of like 16 teams. For me that was a really big accomplishment. And I went to an open bracket event, Fort Worth, and they were like, I guess the broadcast was like, there's a girl playing COD. Let's interview her on the open bracket desk. And my parents were there at that event for some reason. I don't know why. And they bring me over to the open bracket to get interviewed. It got Rich Campbell on my left asking me questions about the game. And I'm just gushing about competitive COD. Again, I dedicated I was missing school. I missed 125 days my senior year. I do not know how they let me graduate. I think they felt bad for me because I saw my counselor a lot. I was going through a lot during that time. But they let me graduate somehow. And so I'm just spitting COD. And they were like, if you want to come back up here later and talk COD with us, like, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm an 18-year-old. I'm like, yeah, okay, they're being nice. They don't really mean that. This is like a professional broadcast. And my parents are like, no, you're going to get your up there and you're going to go back up there throughout the weekend.
W parents right there.
W parents. They're like, no, you're going to get back up there because they overheard in the headset or something like, oh, she's good or whatever. And so I go back up there during the weekend, talk COD, whatever, shoot the S word. And I heard nothing after that. Nothing after that event. The London event happened. Nothing came of it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I thought it was just, hanging out. 4 days. 4 days before Anaheim 2019, I get a DM on Twitter by the producer of the open bracket stream and asks me if I want to cast the open bracket in Anaheim. And I'm like, what in the world? Yes.
Yeah.
But I've never, what do you mean? I don't have any experience. They're like, it's fine. I think there was some weird thing about visas during that time where some of the EU talent couldn't come last minute, or I don't know what was happening, but clearly, I don't know. But I said yes. And then 2 days after that, they booked me a flight and they flew me from Richmond, Virginia to Anaheim, California. And before I knew it, I was in a hotel room, walking across the street in the venue, getting a pass, talking to Chris Tunn and Bryce and I Hold Shift and Spaceman. And I'm like, you guys have been doing this for decades, years. And here I am, never, I don't even listen to you guys. No offense, I didn't really watch a lot of competitive COD. I was just playing it. I was, just grinding it out. The competitive COD I watched was literally just at the event. I was like, I don't really, know anything about what you guys do, your job, nothing. And so that's where all my feedback and my clips come from, is my very first event at Anaheim. I was running around asking Challenger, well, now the Challenger players, but back then just the amateurs. I was like, what's your team name? Who's your players? What's your roles? I was just bugging, which is funny because again, I'm an introvert, but I was like, I know nothing and I need to have some source material because we were going from the desk to casting. And so I was running around talking to people, asking for their team names, whatever. I mean, hundreds of teams that you had to have information on. It was insane. And I just did what I could. I just talked about the game. I probably talked too much. I go back now. I can't even listen to it now. I sounded awful. No sugarcoating it. Don't get me wrong.
But see,
I
it
knew
requires
what
humility,
I was talking about. I knew what I was talking about. I knew the game really well.
Yeah.
But I had never done it before. So my communication and getting my points across were probably literally abysmal. A seaside hardpoint, I tried to explain something and I literally broke down the fundamental of hardpoint. Everybody's seen that clip at this point. And, you just have to think about, I'd never done it before, ever. It was my first time. You guys heard me on the mic for the first time.
But see, that's a life lesson. That is a life lesson that the viewers can take. Is I can't imagine the discomfort that you were experiencing 4 or 5 days before you were going to cast your first ever cast. And the courage it takes for you to go and do that. Doesn't matter what flaws you had, doesn't matter the experience you had. The fact that you seek to discomfort is how you're going to grow. And that is the biggest advice of you is for you guys that are watching. If something scares you, go for it. Do it. That's how you grow. This scared me. I did it. And look where we are.
Yeah.
Right? So that is something that one thing I want you viewers to take away from her.
Just as long as it takes, just reading that. Let me know. Hey guys, We are gamifying fandom. The subliners battle pass is the chance to be rewarded for simply being a fan. There's nothing like this out there. Like in many video games, as you complete quests, you will earn NYXP and you unlock new ranks. XP, or NYXP as we call it, is earned by doing things that you already do as a fan, like following our socials, retweeting a tweet, liking a tweet, watching our matches. The more NYXP you earn, the more rewards you can claim. A small group of the most engaged users will be invited to the Linerati. This is your chance to shine, you Reddit generals. This is the most exclusive access NYSL has ever given supporters. The Insider program offers fans the ability to have a seat at the organization table, help shape the future of content, merchandise, and even competitive decisions. Make sure you guys sign up. NYSL Battle Pass. Good fucking shit, bro. No, see, I like that rotation. No.
I'm the same. So I received 2 pieces of advice, which I live by to this day. The first one was from Clay.
Ooh.
And I didn't understand this until the flank. And he said, never look at Reddit, never look at Twitter, ever. And I said, Clay, why? He said, trust me, bro. Don't do it. And I understand.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah, he said, trust me. And I truly do understand. And a second piece of advice, and viewers, take this advice. It's from Matt Fisher. He's our performance coach. In my wallet, I've got my wallet in my bag. I have a little sticky note of people's opinions who matter. My parents, my team, my boss, Fish. They are the only opinions that matter to me in my life. No matter what I do, no matter with this podcast, with Reddit, with Twitter, I look at that every single time I feel a lack of self-confidence or like, what's the Imposter Syndrome?
Yes.
When you feel like you shouldn't be there.
Imposter Syndrome is so real, especially in our line of work. It's so real.
Now, I was going to segue into this. Do you experience Imposter Syndrome? Because you are very energetic on the desk. You come across as a very super extroverted person. But has that ever occurred to you? And what piece of advice could you give the viewers to deal with Imposter Syndrome?
Absolutely. Imposter Syndrome, I feel almost every day. And it's funny you say the extroverted bit because I get told all the time that I would seem so extroverted and stuff. I'm actually an extremely introverted person. I get really shy in crowds. I get really overwhelmed, really overstimulated. I don't like to go out. I don't like make plans with people. Like if somebody asks me to do something, it'll be like, maybe, but I never like go on my way to make plans. I'm super introverted. And the reason I'm so extroverted on the desk is, again, it's just because I love it. It's just because this is something I've been so passionate about for the past 5 years competitively, and then my whole life since I was a kid, I've played COD. So for me, it's no longer like my job. It's no longer talking to thousands of people. Those people aren't real to me. Yeah. It's a piece of camera. So to me, it's just even my production. I know they can hear me, and I know there's a room of them, but I'm not actually like thinking about them existing, if that makes sense. So I'm just talking about what I love, and I think that's what just gets me out of my shell really easily. And then on the desk, that's what shows is me out of my shell talking about that.
I think I resonate with what you said quite a bit, because it's the same thing in coaching. You're trying to enjoy the process. That is the one thing that we preach on New York, is enjoy the process. If you enjoy the process, it brings the best out of you.
Yeah.
All these other variables do not matter. And I really did resonate with that. So now, what I want to discuss with you, and this is something very personal, but I think your learnings is going to help a lot of the viewers who are watching. But you were diagnosed with autism.
Yes.
So please, could you explain and let's educate the viewers on what that is?
Yeah, for sure. I'm still learning a lot of it myself. I was late diagnosed. So when I was 19, I was going to therapy for something completely different. But my therapist was like, I kind of want to recommend you to get a evaluation for being on the spectrum.
Right.
And I was, at that time, I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? But I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. And at that time is when I got diagnosed with being on the spectrum, got, ADS. And we talked about imposter syndrome. I never felt it more than in kind of that moment, because it felt like, growing up, I moved around a lot. I got bullied a lot, all those typical things. I didn't have a lot of friends,
Right.
and chalking it up to, I'm just, maybe I was just weird, or, I was into gaming and most girls weren't into gaming and yada, yada, yada. I played sports and getting told that, and then having my therapist kind of break it down while being like, you had different behavioral issues growing up. Like, you acted differently than other kids and they weren't educated on it. So they didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
And being told basically that's why, I went through the childhood that I did. It was just like, I couldn't accept it. So for the longest time, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my partner at the time. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I just kind of sat with it. And then I want to say about almost a year after that is when I kind of started opening up and slightly telling my friends, and slightly, I didn't tell my parents. I still technically haven't told my parents, but they know. I mean,
but just to interrupt, that takes a lot of fucking courage. I do want to commend you for that.
It's like, I don't even know how you open up with that, especially your parents, because then they're questioning themselves and like, how did we not know, or how did we not figure this out sooner? And so I felt imposter syndrome so much so that this past year I went and got re-evaled, because I talked about my autism openly, on my stream. It's a joke that I'm too honest or too candid for people. I'm too real. I talk about anything and everything.
You can never be too honest.
And sometimes you'd be shocked. Apparently, there's some things that people just don't talk about, other than bathroom talk. I hate bathroom talk, but I'll be honest about everything else. But I got re-evaled this past year, 23, and sure as hell, right back on an Asperger's syndrome slapped onto my medical papers. And basically, it's just like my brain's built a little different. I don't understand the science about it really, but it's just like, it's a big circle, and it's kind of like a build a character. When you move certain things, other things move in, and then you, with your characteristics and your traits and things, just go all around the graph. It's on a spectrum, sort of like that. And for me, again, people are like, oh, you seem so extroverted on this. I'm like, no, I'm really introverted, and part of that has to do with being autistic, and I hate crowds. I get overstimulated.
Yep.
I'm really awkward. I hold too much eye
you're not
contact,
very awkward
or I don't hold enough eye contact. It's really funny. We were just eating, and I was just staring at Ant, and he looked at me and he was like, "You're just staring at me." It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing it again. But yeah,
Fair
so
enough.
I always get that question. Oh, you're self-diagnosing? Like, no, I've been medically diagnosed not once, but now twice.
Fair enough. So then, how do you tackle imposter syndrome? How? Because I get a lot of imposter syndrome. And truthfully, I'm being very vulnerable. It's something that's a challenge. Even after winning champs do I deserve to be here? Am I working hard enough? So what methods do you use to help you, maybe not overcome it completely, but to help sort of push it to the side?
I'm going to be honest, none of my methods that I use are probably healthy. I'm very much an over-ambitious and overworker. I fill my schedule to the brim, and the times I feel the imposter syndrome the most is when I'm sitting alone and I'm not doing anything. Because to me, I have this free time. Why am I not using it to work or do something else? Am I not working hard as other people? And then that turns into overworking, because I'm just like, I have this free time. I need to fill it with
Does
something.
it feel like a competition?
Not so much a competition, more of like a undeserving, because that's what imposter syndrome is, right? You feel undeserving of whatever it is that you have. So when I have free time, or I'm not doing anything, and I then get reminded of my age and where I'm living and what I do for work, and I'm like, I'm not taking advantage of this time, so I feel like a bad person because I'm not taking advantage of this time to do something productive.
You know what quote really resonated with me? Comparison is the thief of joy. I compare myself to some of the people I went to school with, some of the coaches in the scene, people that are doing finance jobs, science jobs, and there's always this inherent lack of satisfaction in what you do. Is this a job? Am I really doing something? Can I be doing more? And I really truly do understand, because then it manifests in a very toxic way. I need to work 24 hours.
Yep.
And then you burn out. And then you feel like you have to work even more because you've experienced a burnout.
Yes.
And it's this perpetual cycle.
Yeah. The way I don't know if it's toxic or not. The only way I found to kind of saturate that feeling and to get rid of it is, it used to be, so my setup in my bedroom used to be the same room. Yep. And I found that separating that has been really, really important. So I now have them in 2 different rooms, and that's helped me not instantly get up, press the power button on my PC and be like, all right, like, let's get this rolling. So I get up, I do my routine of cooking and showering and cleaning, taking care of my cats. But instead of filling my free time with just work, with just content creation, with just streaming, with just podcasting, with just, playing competitive COD, streaming and ranked play and stuff and learning the game 24 hours a day, I fill it with things like I'm taking Taekwondo twice a week. I'm taking pole dancing once a week, and I have Korean lessons twice a week. So I fill up that free space with something productive that's still a skill that, in my head, I still have kind of turned into content because I'm like, knowing this will be really cool for content later on down the road. So it's still slightly toxic in that way, but it's getting me away from my original job, my original kind of focus.
I think that's for the viewers out there. I think what you said earlier is fantastic. Separate your workspace and your relaxation space. It's a technique we use in coaching, and it's a technique we use on New York. I don't have a setup at home.
Nice. Wow.
When I go home, when I hit my apartment, I turn the key. That is my time.
Yeah.
I have a little joke in the chat. I say, guys, don't text me, don't call me, don't email me, don't MySpace me, don't Habbo me, do not fax me.
MySpace is crazy. How old are you?
Don't Habbo me, don't fax me. And they know that is my time. And I have a routine to then get into bed, right? So because that's very important, especially as a coach, you have your own time. And not even just a coach, but anyone that is working such a high performance lifestyle, such as yourself, it's very important you differentiate the two. And that's the technique you guys that are watching, you guys can steal. What I want to touch on is from the conversations that we had, you have a very remarkable degree of self-awareness and a growth mindset. Whether, now my question to you is, do you have any tips to help people cultivate that?
Yes. So my biggest thing, I used to be very dependable on other people. So I think learning to be comfortable with myself was kind of the biggest first step in that growth. I believe people change and constantly, again, we're learning new things every single day, whether it's, you're learning new people and their names, or, you're learning a new name for a weird color. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not the same person I was yesterday. You're not the same person you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
We're not the same person we were a year ago. Heaven forbid, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the biggest thing for me is constantly looking at myself and being like, is there somewhere I want to grow? Is there somewhere I want to be better? Is there a part of me that I didn't like, or something that I did that I didn't like, and try to work on fixing that? And so that sort of level of self-love and self-growth has gotten me so much further than I think anything else could have possibly done.
Which would require a degree of humility.
Yes.
To be able to face that. I just want to segue into something a bit random.
Go ahead.
Now, it was interesting. You mentioned we're not the same person 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. I completely agree. I from a scientific perspective, I do agree. Now, what's your opinion where people get cancelled for things that they said or did maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago?
So if they're canceled for something they did that long ago, I don't think people like that, you don't do a behavior like that one, because I'm assuming you're touching on something as in like something transphobic, racist, homophobic.
Correct.
People like that, I don't think you could just do it one time and never do it again. Like, I don't think just one time you say something racist and like that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I believe those people can certainly change and apologize for that behavior, years later. So for me, it's about the repetition of that behavior. Is it just coming out now once, or is it coming out as like a slew of multiple times and multiple occasions? And the apology is because of it's been exposed, because it's been brought to the public eye.
So they're sorry that they got caught, not sorry that they did the action.
Yes. So I think trying to discern the differentiation of those two things is kind of what matters in that situation.
So very case by case.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. Right, let's touch on, for the viewers.
Yes.
Congratulations on making Forbes 30 under 30. Huge congratulations, guys. Now, what is that? Explain to the viewers what that is.
Well, what's hilarious is I don't even fully grasp it. So I found out when everybody else found out. When the community found out is also when I found out. I woke up to a Jacob Hale tweet and I was like, why is Jacob Hale tweeting me at like 9 in the morning?
He tweets me all the time.
I see it. I thought I did something wrong. I was like, what in the world did I do? What am I getting clickbaited for? And then I saw that. I saw that it was the Forbes thing and I was like, what in the world? And I got like a flashback. So months before, one of our PR, I don't think she's with us anymore, but her name is Allycxt.
Mm-hmm.
She sent me an email and she was like, I want to submit you to Forbes 30 under 30. Could you send me a biography about yourself and the WxC and whatever? I was like, I thought nothing of it. I was like, Forbes, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I wrote out my little biography, sent it to her, and that was it. She never emailed me back. I never reached out. Like, I had completely object permanenced it. Like, it was gone.
Yeah.
And then I woke up to being on the list, and I was just like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, so I don't really fully grasp or understand what it is. I believe it's, so there's multiple categories, and obviously I'm in the gaming category, and from what I understand, it's an entrepreneurship sort of thing. So people submit you and things that you have founded or been a part of, co-founded, whatever. And so it's all about entrepreneurship. And I'll never forget the amount of tweets I got that day of like, oh, you just pay to be on that list and stuff. And like, I didn't even know. So I'm Googling it. I'm like, do you pay to get on this? I don't remember any money leaving my bank account.
Yeah.
And, and even if you could pay to be something like that, I don't got cash like that. Like, I don't know what you guys,
I got money like that.
I don't have cash like that, whatever amount it is. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool and I'm really grateful for it. She's the one that submitted me, came out of left field.
Hey, let's change that language. It did not come out of left field. Show some self-compassion. You deserve to be on that list.
The WxC deserves to be recognized, and I think it's a great project. I will say that, and we did an incredible job, especially for how quickly we got everything together. It was just very surprising. I never expected that.
Reframe that. I want you to repeat, I deserve to be on that list.
I deserve to be on Forbes 30 under 30.
No, I want to hear conviction.
Put the gun away. Put the gun away.
Right. Now, I want to move on. So, you made your name in a very, I'd say, masculine. Is it masculine? Is that the right word?
Wait,
in a very masculine
I get what you're
community.
saying. Yes.
Right?
Okay.
In a very male-dominated community. But you're also into cars.
I am into cars.
Which is another very male-dominated community.
Yes. Well,
let's discuss that. Right. For the viewers, what beast do you drive currently?
I drive a 2022 Supra.
You hear that, guys?
Is that a Supra?
A Supra? Damn.
I feel imposter syndrome with the car thing a little bit. So I grew up very close with my dad. My dad's the one that got me into gaming as well. He's also really into cars. Same with my brother. My dad right now drives the GT Mustang. My mom, she drives a Jeep Wrangler. She likes nice cars, but a Jeep. I mean, come on. But like growing up, we had like a show Prelude. It was like a '98, like old, beautiful, beautiful car. My first car was a 2012 Grabber Blue Mustang.
Wow.
So I've always just been around like nicer cars, I guess. And I always liked the way that they looked. I liked the way that they feel. Being completely candid, like I couldn't pop the hood and like talk to you about the engine and stuff. I really couldn't.
Right.
But like I've changed my own rotors and tires before, and I understand cosmetics. I understand things like that. But I just like the way they look. I just think they look cool. And when I was in high school, because of the car that I drove, I kind of just got integrated into the car group. So my junior and senior year of high school, I would park with all the other nice cars. So it'd be like there was a Fox Body Mustang and an Infiniti and stuff and a Subaru. And we would all park together. And so they taught me a lot, and they showed me like the ins and outs of my own car and helped me add cosmetics and things like that and body to my car.
Fair enough. So let's explain to some of the younger viewers.
Okay.
Why did you choose a Supra, and what does that process look like for someone who wants to maybe buy a car for the first time?
To be honest, the reason I picked a Supra was, so I actually didn't know anything about the MK4. So I have an MK5 Supra, and my biggest thing is I loved coupes, obviously, because my first car was a Mustang.
Yeah.
A coupe is typically a car with only 2 doors and a smaller back. And so I wanted a coupe because it's just me. I prefer smaller cars. Big cars scare me. I feel like I'm wobbling on the road. I don't like it. I don't like being
like a Jeep or a pickup truck?
Yeah, I hate it. I'm just like, ooh. Or like even like a Durango or something, like a sedan. Ooh, I don't like the way they feel. I don't like driving them. I like being close to the ground. I also grew up on the Fast and Furious.
That go-kart feeling?
Yeah. And I grew up on Fast and Furious movies too. So, I'm
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
I see
you know what I'm saying? So that's why I've always been into just like supercars, like fast cars, quote unquote. But I don't like, funny fact, this is so off topic, I don't like Corvettes. They look like toy cars to me. So anything like a Corvette, like super tiny, I don't like. I like a happy in between of like a Corvette and a Charger, or like a Mustang, like a happy in between of a muscle car and a little itty bitty.
So I find this very interesting. So you're an American muscle girl.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you've bought basically a BMW.
Okay, everybody always tells me that as if it's like a diss. Like, okay, you know what? I like BMWs too, so whatever. It's got a better body. It's got a better body than the BMW. So
It
listen,
does.
if I'm getting the engine of the BMW and I'm getting a better body, you know what I'm saying? But I got the Supra because I was in between the Supra and the Z. And the only reason I didn't want to get the Z is because the base body is really bland to me. I felt like if I bought a Z, I would instantly have to get a kit for it, like instantly wide body it.
Old model or the new one? The one with the square lights.
The new one with the square lights.
Oh,
and I was
ugly.
just like, I wasn't a big fan of the base body. So at least for the Supra, I liked the base body. I still have a base body right now because I can't decide what color to wrap it in.
Yeah.
But that's why I went with the Supra. Is I just didn't want to have to do work to it right away. I wanted to be able to drive it for a year, do research, figure out what I wanted to put on it, and then work on it that next summer. We've already passed that next summer, but it's because I can't pick on a color. But it was pretty easy. So I flew to Atlanta to get my car. So I knew what car I wanted. I knew what color I wanted in. I did my research, and the only one they had was at a dealership in Atlanta. So I called them, I emailed them, was like, hey, I want to get the Supra, went through all the paperwork. Then I flew at like 9 a.m. to Atlanta, went to the dealership, signed the papers, test drove it, and then got the keys and drove back to Ohio.
And how far is that? 9 hours?
9 hours.
Oh,
you know what? 9 hours in your new supercar is not that bad.
I can't, yeah.
It's not that bad.
You're right.
You know
You've got
what?
the new
I
car
probably
syndrome.
made it more like 8 or 7 hours with this way. I was going, what? Don't speed, kids. I don't do that.
All right. Dream car.
GTR. GTR. Easy.
Enough said.
Easy.
Enough said. Right. Final thing we'll touch on.
Yes.
You make music.
I do make music.
Where's that started from? Where's that come from? What's that? What's the whole...
Well, this gets like just funny. This just gets... Everything I've picked up has been in the weirdest ways. The reason I started music was because my ex at the time, my second boyfriend from my hometown, he was an aspiring music producer. But like not... The second you say that, it instantly goes like, oh, he was a SoundCloud rapper, right? It's what my dad called him. I was like the SoundCloud rapper. He actually made like really good professional level music.
And just to be clear, sorry to interrupt, it's not using GarageBand.
No.
So actual, okay.
I will try to say it was like as legit as possible. I will say, as much as I dislike him now, you know, he is very talented when it comes to that.
Okay.
But so we were just messing around one day and we wrote one of my first songs. I know I asked about cussing. The name is literally, I'm sorry. The song's name is the song's name is.
How about this? How about we bleep it out and the viewers, you figure out what she said.
And that was the very first one that we wrote. And we just kind of kept going because it was fun. And I was just writing about dumb stuff like the gaming scene and everything. And we wrote enough songs to release. We released Cat Girls, and then I released an EP with like 4 or 5 songs on it.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And then we broke up, and then I never touched music again. So there's that.
Would you never want to? Do you not have any intentions to sort of continue?
I want to, and I do have intentions to. It's just because it was my partner at the time, and I didn't have any really experience with music. It was very intimate, and to where like we would sit in the studio, and I would come up with like an idea, but like I couldn't rhyme or write the way that he could. So like he was realistically doing a lot of the revising and the writing, and obviously the beat making and stuff. And I don't know if a traditional producer even does that. I don't know where to start. I'm very ignorant in that field, so I'd want to, and I want to make more music. I just have no earthly idea in what direction I'd have to go.
So what that sounds like is you need a ghostwriter. I've got the beats. I'm going on GarageBand.
Okay.
I can make some rap. Don't worry about it. I got it covered.
Okay.
I'm sure some of the viewers can produce.
Perfect.
Let's do this. We'll be #1 in the charts next year.
Let's go.
It will have to be R&B though.
I'm fine with that. I like R&B.
Rap?
I can rap. I talk. You know what? I get told that I talk really fast, so I think I could handle it. My karaoke song is Eminem. Anything by Eminem is my karaoke song. So
give us a beat.
No, I can't freestyle. What kind of? Okay, hold on. We just talked about how I can't write.
Social battery. Does it feel like it drains quite a bit doing this? Do you feel drained?
No, so that's always been the weird thing for me is like going out to bars and clubs like after events and stuff, or like even just in general hanging with people in a normal setting drains me like crazy, like really bad. But whenever it's something COD related or in this sort of setting, again, when it's things, not that I'm not passionate about hanging out with my friends, but when it's something like a very intellectual topic, it never feels draining to me. Like stuff like this, I feel like I could talk on and on and on and yap for hours about.
Let's discuss something very intellectual.
Okay.
Very stimulating.
Yeah. Are you trolling me?
No, I'd never troll you. Come on. Right, listen.
Yes.
The alien in Florida, 10 foot.
Here we go. It was troll.
Yes or no?
What do you mean? This is 2024 and you're telling me that there's... First of all, I haven't even seen the video. I saw like a little bit of one just from scrolling on Twitter.
Right.
And it was in like 1080, not 1080, excuse me, like 480p. We're in 2024. We all have iPhones or Androids. What do you mean we can't get a clear video? It's just like the bank robbery cameras. Like, why are they in 480p? Like, this should be like clear, crisp as day. I should be able to see his eye color.
Conspiracy theory right here, guys.
I don't know. I don't know. There's something out there. Are they here on planet Earth? Maybe. I don't know. I prefer to be ignorant. This is not my feel. I prefer to be ignorance is bliss. Okay, ignorance is literally bliss.
Antarctica.
What about it?
Is there a military base on Antarctica?
I don't know. Probably.
What do you believe? I need a straight yes or no.
I don't know. Is this a new conversation?
Yes or no? Is there a military base on Antarctica?
Military base on Sure. Yeah. Why not? I put one there.
On that note,
I put one there.
We'll finish it there. Plug your socials.
This has been AllyCXD. I'm AllyCXD on just about every single social: Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram is AllyCXD with an extra T. That's about all I got.
Appreciate it, guys. Huge thank you to Breaking Point. Huge shout out to Subliners for giving me the opportunity to do this. Huge shout out to my brilliant guest. One absolutely amazing podcast. Make sure you do check out DREAL.co.uk. Get your coaching sessions in, consultations, all that good stuff. DREAL_JE on Twitter, Twitch. Make sure you follow her. When she reaches 100k followers, she will give away her Toyota Supra.
Can't confirm or deny that one.
She will do that. See you later, guys.